off of the 86s. The 86 stick. All right. So now we have our low pivot coming in. WB was a mastermind. I mean, he used to have such great Elliott wave work. I mean, he was a pretty eccentric guy. If you got him though, you loved him. All right, we're getting that extension above the open. So hey, heads up, we're above the open now. Okay. Levels already loaded. We have 7. We're looking up there. Let's not jump the gun here. Let this thing prove it. Nice move here. Come on, give me a reason. So remember, hey guys, dial into how that short trade was managed, right? Quick in, quick out, right at the level. Uh, Always trying to keep those stops as low as possible. If you study your statement, you'll find nuggets of gold in there. Run it through there are tons of them now. Like when I first started using a digital trading journal, there weren't too many. So I still use Journalytics, but uh, there are just tons of them out there now. I think there's even I think you can even find them now in like you can pretty easily like some props have them, I think. All right, we got that 5 minute setup here. See if we can go get that overnight high. Nope. Delta flipped. I thought we'd get that extension move higher. Let me check this. I haven't checked these. Ooh. Oh, sugar. I missed it. Rock. I missed it. Sorry, guys. Really gotta get better about reading these comments. So here's what I was looking for. Here's my profile chart. So remember, wait, let me just close this. So here, I thought we would get, where's my pen? I thought we would get down here, form something like this. I thought we could get some range extension lower because of this. See how that formed? Really gotta get better at this pen. So I was hoping was we were gonna get down here and then come maybe spike and then reclaim back up for reclaim from the mid AM low. But again, that level mattered. It mattered more, and I got faked out. 'Cause look at the structure on it, right? 2 tick excess. That's what fueled this move. There was just no meaningful liquidity down there to grab, and then we just spiked higher. All right, we'll get something here. We have 11:10 coming into the time. Let's one of the key things that I wanna share with you all is, you can learn flexibility from trading one day, from just from one day, but you need to see the market prove it or prove you wrong in 20 different ways so that you can test different ideas and different different, executions. I'll tell you guys all the time, stay flexible. Don't try to force one day and decide whether it works or not. A tag of yesterday's point of control that would into the 11 o'clock time frame, that would have been sweet. Sorry, the overnight point of control. That was another reason why I thought that we could squeeze. Let me show you this. Um, Data series. Let me change the data series on this. Check this out. Because of the orderly nature of that yesterday's decline, right? All of this, look, we could not break below it. I didn't even realize that right now. All of these shorts are trapped. They're fueling this move higher. And look, we left this naked volume point of control up here. That gets tagged today at some point, I think. 7702. Just about there. We are just about there. All right. So what's the next trade? So let's see. We don't have the we're kind of spread out. Wait a minute. No, no, no. You go rogue on me. That looks weird. What the hell is that? Try to clean this up. Where the hell did that come from? Was that Besant news? Did that just come out? Just Scott Bessent. Efforts in the bond market haven't calmed yields for long. Here's what else. Scott Besson said Thursday he has a big toolkit to aid pressures in the government bond market. Oh, I guess that means more easing, right? I guess what that means. That's what that means. While he didn't name them specifically, Benson has several options, including reducing duration of government hold. This is old news, I think. All right, so we're waiting to carve out that midday low. Let's see where we're at with Delta. Let me check that out. Oh, you know what? Let's look at the squeeze too. Um, let's see. Dang. Yep, we're seeing that uptick now in liquidity. Oh, but interestingly enough, there's a drop. Seems like so. The S&P came down. Are you guys familiar with let's see if let me share this with you guys. Are you guys familiar with this chart, with this squeeze metrics website? Phase says process, not attachment to outcome. Yep. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but this is a good this is a good broad stroke site to kind of get an idea. In any event, back to the price action. Looking for that carved out low looking for a move back up to that overnight high. Kind of following through on this structure here, waiting for some follow through. If this one failed, it's likely just going to fall right back into balance, and then we go back and we mop up that poor low. We'll see. What is this telling me? Ah, we got that resistance right there. Oscillators are what? They're rolling over kind of. See if we can navigate around this. Interestingly enough, like right at the high was 359. These are the worst kind of days where we're just chopping back and forth. All right, coming into the 11:30 time frame. Let's see what we get. We have a nice little buying tail on the 2-hour chart. Let's check out. Let's just work through it. Let's go to the 4 hours. Start the highest time frame, right? To the 4 hour. It looks like we might be able to make an assault here on 7,700. This ABC down as pretty much it hit its 50% target. Let's see. One, that one off. Right. So I think it even hit 75. Just put 75 on there. See how far it extended. Um, okay. Yep. Wow, right to the teeth. That 75 has been really, really popular lately. Remember when we had our balance at high? Okay. It was just when we had this prior when we were measuring our balance, how much it kept bouncing between the 75% range, the 75s, right? We highlighted that quite a few times. So, uh, this was the 75 and this was the 75. You can see here 1, 2, 3 on the top on the high side, 4 on the low side, and came and retested here, um, the one there. That might be something to look at. You don't wanna not something to trade off of, but something just to keep in the back of your back of your club bag. It's not your main driver, it's your backup. It's your windy day driver. It's a pretty interesting test, but I think you can probably find anything you want if you look hard enough. So now, where would bears reassert themselves? Let's take a look. We need to know where halfback is. Always measure this stuff out for yourself so that you have a good idea. Let me get this one. Healthy. 61.8. This one, we're going to move these to the left. 77.50. Yep, that's our bogey. 77.70. It's high 77.65. So we'll need to watch that 77.50 for sure. All right. All right. Let's see what we got. You guys have any questions? Let me know. Delphine, this is yeah. So yeah, Hakanashi. So no, sorry, not Hakanashi. This is a Renko, a 13-2 Renko chart. I love it. Um, I love this chart. This is part of I only started using a 5 minute when I started streaming. I never used it before. And that was simply because of what, you know, because I had to if I was gonna stream, I had to make it universally applicable, and that's when I started using, like, the real simple approach of analyzing the overnight highs, overnight lows, and so forth, as well as using a 5 minute chart with simple moving averages, because that's something that anyone can stop in and understand. Emini Sniper says, "I didn't know you use next gen charts as well." Yep, yep. So interestingly enough, next gen was uh, so I next gen was the only software like full package. So like I bought profile indicators like this stuff, right? This is a Rancho Dinero volume profile and TPO package. But next gen was the first software that I bought, and I bought it in 2007. Yeah, 2007. And it still works. I love it. I do. I still use the MACD. I like that for momentum. When you hear me talk about what is this doing? Dang it. Why did that thing trigger a short for me? Not want that. Hang on, what was that? Oh, yeah. What time was that? Yeah, so I bought. Okay, I got that first target. So 5 points on the first one, guys. 5 points on the first. So I initially entered at 76.95. I got 7,700 on that one. Now, the next one was at like 93. So I think it's. Let me just double check. Just look at the execution. 11. Okay, so let's see. What was the entry? So the next one was at 91.75. So I'm looking for 01.75. Just leave that 03.75 for 12-point fill. And then looking at 08.50 for 15. And last one, 91.75 would be a 5. So 11.50 would be a 20-point check. So you guys see how that we carved out that low? I kind of jumped in early on that one, but simply because I had that first information, I didn't to. And here's another, power of the clock, right? So there's no need for if you get in and you're early on the move, just give it some time. I mean, I had a 7-point stop and I wasn't going to let that violate, but I was willing to take a full stop. So when you see me take those jab step trades where I get it, or I hit that second target, so plus 10 on the second, plus 10 on the second one. Oh, actually, it's 12 points on the second one. Now that I look. All right, so when I'm using the clock, right? So we're getting a little bit of reaction here, guys. Instead of number five. When I'm using the clock here, right? I pretty much know that. Well, I don't ever know, but here's what we had coming into that. We had this support level held. We had the rally. We had to move higher. I'm looking to get long. I'm gonna go back into our next time-based pivot. Okay. So now I'm looking for a pullback into this zone. I had a short term when we were coming up. We kind of had some good pace and good momentum, and I had that 5 minute uh, candle pattern. It came up here, but then it failed, and I was in my time window. We were past 11. So let's see. Yeah, so my first entry was 95. It was right here. Draw that out. 95 entry. This is really good for you guys that don't use like a PTG automated strategy, right? This is where the rubber meets the road on how you get in and get out and trying to navigate those positions. All right. So look, so we had the entry on this bar immediately came and reversed on me, but I know I have a support. My stop was below there, below that prior distribution. So I was pretty good with just letting that rock handle itself. Letting that stop work. was the right idea. All right, so now we're coming into the continuation long level. We're going to try to I'm going to because I have look, I just came from my AM low. I'm sorry, from my mid AM low right here. We had our AM high that then turned into our support as our mid AM low at the breakout. So now we have plenty of time to our last pivot. So what I'm going to look for next is, we're really tight here into that setup 6 level. So let me tell you what I see here is you could now negate setup number 6. Just cross that off your list because, well, not yet, but in this morning's update, I said if we can convert setup number 5, then I think we have a good, chance to get up to setup number 8. So I wanna take that off my chart. I kinda wanna give that a less weighting now because of the context of how we got here. I know it's there, I don't want it to get in the way of my understanding of the larger picture. So that's setup number 6. Go ahead and take that off. Okay. All right, got the plus 15 points on the last one. Plus 15 points, sorry, not on the last one, on the third. So got a full target hit. That's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. I'm gonna go ahead and put a stop there. All right. So we're moving up higher. Good. Nice job, Bruce. Well done. Good for you, bud. Now here's the continuation long. So here's what I want to do now. My next idea is coming into 11:42. Still have time. That's pretty much the idea. We might come down to this, right? So let's frame that prior high is like 97, 99. That becomes my next entry point. But remember that this thing we're in squeeze territory now, guys. I mean, this thing. So basically, with the tempo that we've seen thus far, I don't think it's going to be a strong, uh, like a really powerful squeeze. Of course, it might be, but I think that we'll probably see a more controlled advance. That being said, we need to convert this level. So now it's 11:43, right? Let's give this some time. Let's give it, on a five. I guess on a 5 minute basis, we give it 2 or 3 prints. See how it acts. Do have a Fib cluster that we're coming into up here at 77.11. I think the next gen software goes right now for like $5,000 or something. It's wild how expensive it got. You got a sniper. Do you know how much it cost? Last time I checked, which was probably maybe over a year ago, I think it was in the area of 5 grand. 10K. Wow. Oh my God. That is crazy. That is wild. That is wild. 10K lets you lease it. Yep. Yeah, I guess. Right. Um, you do not want to know what I paid for it. I was in early, and yeah, just so every time the only time I will actually go like at times I'll go like a year or I think at one time I went like 3 years without needing to speak to them, right? And you'd be surprised uh at how much they try to get me to buy add-ons and stuff. They're always trying to get me to buy add-ons. So they also have like a really interesting feature now that that has an auto trader strategy that you can use. I have it loaded, but I don't pay for it. I didn't pay. I'm not subscribed to it. Let's see. Yeah, the T3 market flow strategy. So each time I call, the only time I have to communicate with them is when I have to have this software reinstalled. I need to have a key loaded, and I have my license allows me to use it for on two separate devices, and so the only time I call them is when I need to have one of those devices reinstalled, and immediately, like the worst mistake I made, like I have a Discord, and the worst mistake I made was allowing the sales rep, when I was trying to get the software reinstalled about, I don't know, about 6, 7, 8 months ago. 6, 7, 8 months ago, I had to have it reinstalled twice, and before that, I don't think I had it reinstalled in 2 or 3 years. And they asked me for my Discord, and they were calling me nonstop. I mean, nonstop. I had to turn the notifications off. How much they were reaching out, trying to get me to buy an add-on. And I did entertain the automated strategy. I wanted to take a look at that, but they were trying to. They didn't seem like they wanted to. They were trying to shift me into a different product, and I just became disinterested and more annoyed at how many times they were calling me. All right, so here we just traded 77.10. So now we're looking at look at these prints right from here to here. We're in squeeze territory. Is this going to be something that doesn't let anyone in and we continue the advance, or are we going to start having some controlled pullbacks into these levels, like 70, 7,700? Remember what 7,700 represents on a higher time frame, right? This is where we can shrink our focus. Remember, when we're coming back here, here's our 7,700 low, right? So when these larger areas are trading, it acted as resistance. If we look on a smaller time frame, here, let's go down 60 minute. You'll see, right? So here on the 60 minute, it acted as resistance, but now we're above it. So I expect this area to act as support, but I don't believe it will be like you might get a first touch move out of it, but I would suspect that it trades a few times over the course of like the next hour or so, next couple of hours. They need to convert this area. See if I can stay in this squeeze here as long as possible. Remember what we spoke about earlier about the squeeze, right? And that was kind of good. That was going to be what was going to frame our discussion today. So remember, if everybody starts selling aggressively, like what we saw at the lows, and what you can use several tools for that. You can zoom out, right, and look at a put to call ratio. There are a couple of different charts you can use. Right, here's a put to call ratio chart from yesterday. And when you see when you see this move down into the lower areas, right, you start to get your attention. Okay. Uh, Here's another read. Skew kept leaning increasingly to the bearish side, and that connects beautifully to what we saw yesterday in terms of that controlled advance lower. So imagine aggressive sellers hit bids. Delta becomes increasingly negative. More sellers enter, more put buyers enter, more futures are held short. The open interest is really held short. But then suddenly price stops moving lower. And this is what the read was. This is why the read was a potential squeeze if we get above our squeeze level. Because look at how much pushing they did. They pushed down here into that 76.60 level, which we knew was a support. And it was, guys, it was 2 hours into the close and they couldn't convert it. But really, the push had begun way higher. It had begun up here in the early part of the session. So remember, we were following that narrative and we were letting that frame our idea. Okay, well, we have this data point. We know that this move lower was not a very volatile one that was signifying to us that this was a large part of a larger bearish move. And so now when price stops making meaningful downside progress, we need to ask ourselves, if all of this selling pushes price lower, who's taking the other side of it? Ask yourself that question, right? So for every short seller, for every long put, for every short futures, there's a dealer that sold that to you and he's holding that contract long. For every long put that you are, there's a dealer who short that put. And we all know how dealers control the market, right? They're the ones, they're the market makers, they're the dealers, they're the ones that have the all-seeing eye, so to say. So that's where absorption becomes really, really interesting, because once you see that absorption, not because negative delta itself means buy, but because, selling versus effort. We talked about this yesterday. When you see all that selling and all that effort put into the move, and price is no longer getting that advance. Remember, one of the hallmarks of a dealer who's either long or short delta is if they're long delta, then they're going to be supportive on these moves. So they'll force this negative delta, right? But if they are absorbing these lows, look at these distributions yesterday, right? Yeah, we moved lower, but it was so controlled, right? So we had this move lower, very controlled. And then we broke, right? One quick from in an hour, we broke lower, but then we went sideways for 2 hours. And in the morning session, look how the morning session went. There was a few stabs up, right? Off the open, and then later into our mid AM high. And then it was just sideways to down. Forced, and that was selling pressure from higher levels, but that those short sellers weren't getting much. Even if you were only looking at the market every few hours, you were not getting much for your effort. And so now when we came down into this low, we have that kind of like that a divergence in load, I'd call it. So where sellers are being aggressive, but they're not really getting anything for their effort. And the same can be used on the opposite side. If we look at the higher time frame, It's the same read, team. Look, we had the same kind of forced this longs, getting long, waiting, waiting, waiting. Then they finally got the breakout. And what happened? Dealers were selling into that. So we went lower, lower, and then all of these longs from these areas, all of these bulls, right? So let's clear this out. So all of these bulls here saw this breakout, super happy in the morning. And then those same longs became sellers into this, were liquidated. So let's follow the breadcrumb trail. So if you're a dealer, remember, these longs are pushing it higher. So now dealers are forced to sell to you, right? So they're short. And now their book is they're overly long, being short delta, being long puts that they sold you. And that's why I wrote this morning, I said bears are miserable because they're, a lot of bears are looking for this move, right? They're looking for that classic extension move lower. And in my opinion, when like the move that bears have been looking for ages. Let me just monitor this here. We went and traded up to 77.14. That was setup number 6 area. So we need to be alert. So when that move, bears are typically looking for this kind of move. Down, 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 down. But too often, like if you traded 09 or if you were around for 2011 or 2018 or the COVID crisis, right? Or during the pandemic, you know that it's going to trade more like you're just going to see one big day of down, 2 big days of down, 3 big days of down, and then you'll get this vicious rip right back up. And then another big vicious day down, right? That's what happens when the ES is really selling. And when that kind of price action happens, that leaves clues, and you know it when you see it. Multiple supports are not there. It's like they're not even there. This was way too controlled. And that's what I was explaining to FaZe was just, hey, listen, hang in there, because over time you get to experience all these different market types. All right, we just came back in and we're retesting the overnight low, the overnight high, sorry, from above. 77.0475 was our overnight high. I guess we had to expect a fade here from setup number 6 level. So we had the first touch fade and support at the overnight high. All right, team, it's coming into the 12 o'clock mark. I'm going to start wrapping it up on this fun Friday. I hope you guys picked something up today. See, it looks like I'm going to get stopped out at a break even on that AR4 trade, and that's fine. This will be my primary win for the day, so to say. Yeah, it's fading right from there. All right. Well, I'm out of that one. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to grab a bite to eat, and we'll be lurking around here for a bit. I don't. I'm probably. I have to go out at 1 p.m. So I probably likely will shut it down after that. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the support. We'll be back on Monday to do it all over again. Look out for more market blueprint levels and execution clock. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have a good one.